The text message I sent back was probably the most satisfying and terrifying thing I have ever done in my entire life. And honestly, every time I read it again, I still feel that cold knot of anxiety mixed with absolute righteous fury. My sister, Clara, had just told me point blank that if I wasn't willing to babysit her 4 children during the entire Christmas gathering, I shouldn't even bother showing up. And my parents, the supposed neutral mediators, instantly sided with her. Their message was clear. My time, my holiday, and my role was entirely subordinate to Clara's convenience. I looked at the text thread, saw my sister's arrogant little smiley face emoji, and without a second thought, I typed, "Cool, then my $50, 0 isn't showing up to Christmas either." And then, just to seal the deal, I immediately hit block on all 3 of them, Clara, Mom, and Dad. I canceled my flight, and I watched the entire Christmas plan implode from the comfort of my own home. You have to tell me, was I the absolute villain for weaponizing my money to prove a point? Or was this the only way to finally escape their emotional blackmail? To understand why a simple Christmas plan blew up into a $50 0 financial standoff, you need to know my family dynamic, which I can assure you is a masterpiece of passive-aggressive manipulation. My name is Jamie, and I'm what you might call the financial savior of my family, a role I never asked for, but was forcefully assigned. I'm a software engineer. I live on the West Coast, far away from my family in the Midwest, and I earn a substantial income. My older sister, Clara, is the opposite. She married young, had 4 children in rapid succession, and has spent the last decade complaining about how hard and expensive life is. Now, I love my nieces and nephews. They are wonderful kids. But Clara and her husband have 0 concept of boundaries or responsibility. Their default parenting strategy is to foist the kids onto anyone willing to watch them while they relax. And guess who the primary, unpaid, and unwilling candidate for babysitting duty always is? That would be me, the single, childless aunt who only flies home twice a year. My parents, bless their hearts, aren't malicious, but they are utterly spineless when it comes to Clara. She has perfected the art of the victim narrative, constantly emphasizing her struggles to raise 4 children on a modest income. Because of this, my parents treat her like a fragile princess who needs constant pampering and protection, which translates to endless demands on my time and resources. For example, every time I fly home, my parents immediately expect me to take over the child care so Clara and her husband can have a much-needed break. If I suggest getting a hotel, my mother gets tearful about the lost family time. If I suggest hiring a babysitter, Clara glares at me and says, "Must be nice to have money to waste on things like that." It's emotional blackmail perfected over years. My refusal to babysit isn't just about the kids. It's about setting a basic boundary that they have consistently refused to respect. I fly in, I spend thousands on airfare and gifts, and then I work a free 72-hour shift as a nanny while they all enjoy the holiday. This year, I vowed it would be different. I was going to enjoy my Christmas, the other key piece of information. The reason the $50 0 even exists in this narrative is the house. My parents' house is beautiful, but it's old and desperately needed a full roof replacement and a new furnace, repairs totaling just over $50,000. My parents, who are retired and on a fixed income, certainly couldn't afford it. Clara and her husband made a great show of searching for loan options, but ultimately came up empty, surprise, surprise. So I stepped in, not because I was rich, but because I love my parents and didn't want them freezing in the winter. I paid for the entire renovation outright, scheduling the work to be completed just before Christmas as a surprise gift. I didn't want a huge fuss. I just asked them to make a small announcement at Christmas dinner, maybe a toast, so I could acknowledge the gift and move on. It was a massive, generous act, one that ensured their comfort and financial stability for years to come. I wasn't flaunting it, but it was a fact. I was the reason they had a safe, warm home to host Christmas in that year. The conversation that broke everything started in the family group chat, 2 days before I was scheduled to fly out. I had already confirmed my arrival time, and the general plans were set. I casually texted, excited to see everyone. I'm planning a quiet dinner with Mom and Dad on my first night, and I'd love to just relax with everyone when I get there. Clara jumped in immediately. Great, just to confirm, you're taking the kids ages 2, 4, 6, and 8 from noon until bedtime on Christmas Eve, and then again all day Christmas Day. My husband and I really need this trip to feel like a real vacation. I stared at the message on my screen. This was not a request. It was an expectation. It was a mandate. I pushed back immediately, but politely. Clara, I love the kids, but I'm coming home for the holiday, not to work. I'll spend quality time with them, of course, but I'm not doing full-time childcare. You guys should hire a sitter if you want a full day off. The floodgates opened. Clara responded with a furious barrage of texts about how selfish and uncaring I was. She argued that since I didn't have kids, I couldn't possibly understand her exhaustion, and that it was my duty as the rich single aunt to help the family. She even accused me of using my money to make them feel inferior. The truly devastating part, though, was when my mother chimed in. She didn't defend me, she didn't mediate. She just sent a text that read, "Jamie, honey, Clara is under a lot of stress. Just help out this one time. It's only fair. You'll barely notice the time." And then Clara dropped the line that sealed her fate and mine. She typed, "Seriously, Jamie, if you're not going to babysit 4 kids, then don't even come. It's not worth the hassle if we can't get any downtime." My parents then backed her up completely. "We agree with Clara right away. Please rethink this or stay home." That was the moment. The ultimate, final proof that they only valued me for my utility, whether it was my money or my free labor. They were willing to uninvite me from Christmas entirely rather than manage their own children or respect my boundaries. The humiliation, the rage, and the deep, bone-weary exhaustion of constantly having to fight for my own worth just crashed over me. They wanted a transaction. Fine. I would give them a transaction. They wanted to use me as an emotional and financial tool. I would show them exactly what happened when the tool was withdrawn. I deleted my previous polite, pleading drafts. I went straight for the jugular, targeting the one thing they truly valued, their newly renovated $50,000 home. So that's the situation I was in, and I had to make a choice. My entire family, sitting in a warm, comfortable house that I had paid for, was actively uninviting me from Christmas because I refused to be their free babysitter. I had the power to punish them severely, to make them understand the true cost of their disrespect, or I could swallow my pride, apologize, and go home to another miserable, unpaid childcare shift. Before I tell you what happened next, the aftermath of the text and the final confrontation, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have gone through with the threat, or would you have let them win? Tell me your choice. I didn't hesitate. I typed out the most satisfying text of my life. Cool, then my $50 0. 00 isn't showing up to Christmas either. I let it sit there for exactly 30 seconds, long enough for the read receipts to pop up on all 3 messages. And then I hit block on the entire group, canceling my flight and turning off my phone notifications. The silence that followed was blissful. I was completely alone, but I was finally free. I knew the storm was coming, but for that moment I savored the peace. The storm arrived 3 hours later, starting with an email from my father, followed by one from my mother, and then finally a frantic, poorly punctuated message from Clara. My father's email was panicked. He didn't mention the babysitting demand. He only mentioned the money. "Jamie, what is this about the $50 0. 00? Are you serious? The roof work is done. You can't just revoke a gift. My mother's email was full of theatrical tears and guilt, tripping. How could you threaten your poor, sick father like this? This is extortion. You've ruined Christmas for the children. Clara's message was pure, unadulterated fury and entitlement. You disgusting piece of filth. You think you can use your money to control us. Pay for a damn babysitter. We won't let you blackmail us. The sheer hypocrisy was breathtaking. They were perfectly willing to use my money and my labor to control me. But when I used the one leverage point I had, I was the villain. I decided to respond once, and only once, to the family group email, which I sent to all three of them simultaneously. I kept it professional, cold, and factual. I explained that the $50,000 was never simply a gift. It was an investment in their continued comfort and well-being, made under the assumption of mutual respect and a loving family dynamic. I then laid out every instance of disrespect, culminating in the ultimatum to babysit or stay home. I informed them that since they had unilaterally rescinded my invitation to Christmas because I wouldn't provide free labor, I was rescinding the gift portion of the house payment. I stated clearly that the $50,000 I had paid was now formally a 5-year interest-free personal loan secured against the value of their house, payable in monthly installments starting in January. I attached a professionally drafted document which I had pre-written months ago, just in case, outlining the loan terms and payment schedule. I even offered to waive the interest entirely if they simply refunded my plane ticket and sent me one sincere, unqualified apology. The resulting communication was chaos. Clara went ballistic, threatening lawsuits and calling me every name under the sun. My father called my work number, begging me not to do this, citing their retirement income. My mother played the health card. I held firm. I did not engage in the emotional manipulation. I simply replied to the emails with one sentence. Please refer to the attached loan agreement. I was the one who had written the checks. I had the contracts with the roofing and HVAC companies, and the money had come directly from my accounts. Proving that it was my money invested in their house was simple. Eventually, the reality of having a $50,000 interest, free debt hanging over them set in, especially the fear of losing their home if they defaulted. After a week of total silence from me, my father finally broke. He sent a short, painful email that said simply, I am sorry, Jamie. We were wrong. We owe you $50,000, and we owe you an apology. He didn't mention Clara. That was all I needed. I responded immediately, accepting the apology and the loan agreement, but I never reinstated the Christmas plans. I flew to a tropical location instead, and had the most peaceful, luxurious holiday of my life. I even sent a postcard to my parents showing me sipping a cocktail, but not one to Clara. The loan agreement is still in place. They make the payments on time every month, and the necessity of those payments ensures that they never forget the cost of their disrespect. Clara and I rarely speak. Our relationship is permanently fractured, but the relationship with my parents is slowly, tentatively healing. They learned a harsh lesson. My worth isn't tied to my wallet or my willingness to be a doormat. I may have weaponized my money, but it was the only thing that could stop the emotional abuse and finally, once and for all, establish a boundary that my family could not afford to cross. I sacrificed a holiday, but I gained my freedom. So, that's how I spent my Christmas, alone and at peace, instead of being a free nanny for 4 ungrateful people. The moral here is that if a family only values your utility, you have every right to withdraw that utility and demand respect. Sometimes, the harshest lesson is the only one that sticks. Like this video if you were on my side, subscribe for more stories like this, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Do you think I handled the loan agreement correctly? Or should I have just cut them off entirely? Let me know. I'll see you all in the next story.